Sir, what's the next thing you remember?
Well, I went to bed about 10, after 10 or something like that. And pretty soon I woke up and heard shots. So I heard about four or five shots. And I knew it wasn't fireworks. So I didn't know what was going on. And they said we heard ambulance going down Colfax.
You mean gunshots?
Yes.
And when you heard the ambulance, did you also see the lights and hear the sirens?
Yep.
Does that look like the lights you saw across the street?
Right. The lower lights of the little ones that I spied unusual.
The lights on the front of the car there?
Yeah, like underneath that.
Thank you, sir. May I approach?
Yeah.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Nost?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Nost, just a couple questions. This was, when you first see this vehicle pull into the driveway, it's 9:30 or so at night, is that correct?
Yeah, around 9:30, yeah.
And this is December 31st, so presumably it's pitch black outside, is that fair?
Right. Well, we had a street light, but that's all you could see.
Sure, and yeah, so the sun is down. The street light that illuminates the area, where is that in relation to your house?
My house is right east of the 5040, or 2054, I mean, across the street.
And where's the street light? Just so I
Just between me and about a little bit northwest of my house.
So if the street light is a little north of your house, the driveway you see this car pull in, is that north of your house or south of your house?
South. Or, well, the driveway of that house is, I'm
Here,
here.
I tell you what, if we pull that map out again, would that help? The big map? Or can, oh, thank you. Sir, can you see from back
Yeah.
here? Okay, so your house is 2045 Gerald, correct?
Right.
All right, is the street light on the same side of the street as your house?
Yes,
Okay, and you said it's a little bit north of your house, is that correct?
right,
All right. And the driveway that you're looking at, that's this one right here, correct?
right.
So the street light, is it about in between your house and your neighbor's house, or is it farther north?
No, it's between me.
All right. And, sir, you said that you thought it was a four-door car, but you couldn't quite tell, is that correct?
Well, I would assume it's four-door because he got behind the driver's seat into a door, so I figured that's what it was, four-door.
When the car drove by, did you see it as a four-door car?
No, I couldn't tell.
And is part of that because it was dark outside?
Right,
And you said that it looked like this person got something out of the back seat,
right,
but you couldn't quite tell because it was dark outside. Is
that's
that fair?
right.
And when the prosecutor asked, had you seen this car before, this is certainly the first time you made note of that car being in that driveway. Is that
Right.
fair? But you don't really know if you've never seen that car before or not. Is that fair?
That's right.
And the headlights, they're the regular headlights, and there's sort of that lower row of headlights.
Right.
That's something that's common, the LED lights, common on a lot of new cars. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know. That's the first time I've ever seen lights like that.
That's something that stuck out in your mind.
Right.
And you don't know if that was a custom job on that car, or maybe that's just what a lot of cars have. Is
I
that
don't
fair?
know.
Thank you, Mr. Nost. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Can the
you.
witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
All right, you are excused, sir.
Your Honor, the people called Fern Nost.
Approach the podium, face the judge, and raise your right hand. Standing, standing, standing.
Thank you. Do you hereby solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? This you do under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Okay, speak up nice and loudly. Can you hold the microphone if we give you one?
I think so.
Left hand, maybe? All right.
Ma'am, if you
Thank
would state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Fern Nost, N-O-S-T.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Nost, do you live at 2045 Gerald with your husband Walter?
I do.
Were you home with him on New Year's Eve 2018?
I was.
Did you see a vehicle parked in the driveway across the street at the vacant home that was for sale that evening?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about Gerald Street and that block that you live on?
Gerald Street is 1 block long. It's a quiet neighborhood.
Do you know most of your neighbors?
Yes,
Do you recall discussing the vehicle parked across the street with your husband and how it stuck out to him?
yes.
What do you remember most about New Year's Eve 2018?
Well, it was fairly quiet until late in the evening. There was,
You heard something.
yes,
Tell the jury about that.
around 11 o'clock, there were a lot of sirens and police cars, ambulance, going behind our house on Colfax.
Did you hear what your husband described as shots?
I heard that kind of noise, yes.
After experiencing the lights and the sirens, and before you went to bed, did you ever look out the window across the street? Again?
I did later before I went to bed.
And was the vehicle still parked there?
No,
Did you ever see it again?
no.
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Nost, when you went to bed, was that vehicle still there, if you remember, in that driveway?
No, it was not.
And let me just make sure I'm clear. When you went to bed, before you were woken up by sirens or anything like that?
The sirens were before I went to bed.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so it sounds like, did your husband go to bed before you?
Yes,
Okay, so you were up, Mr. Nost goes to bed, you're still awake when the sirens and the lights flashing and all that happens, is
I
that right?
was, yes.
And when you went to bed, do you remember approximately what time that was?
Right around midnight.
And at some point where were you while you were in your house during that period? Were you in one specific place?
I was in the front room watching television.
Does the front room face out across the street?
Yes,
And did you actually hear the gunshots?
I heard, yes.
What could have been gunshots? Loud
Yes, yes,
And then shortly thereafter, the sirens and the lights.
correct.
And when you went to bed, you looked out the window and noticed that that vehicle was gone, correct?
Yes,
But you didn't actually see it pull out and leave, is that correct?
I did not.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Anything else?
From the front room where you were, Miss, would you say that your house has a good view of the house across the street in the driveway?
Yes, our driveway is right across from that driveway.
Publishing People's 25, Your Honor. Is that similar to the view that you have from your front window?
Yes,
And is there a similar view from Walter's bedroom?
yes.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Kessler?
Nothing, Judge, thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
All right, you are excused. You will call,
Place a moment, Your Honor.
yes.
Hey Chris, just so you're aware, with the casings and stuff from the scene, I'm not gonna open up all the bags unless you want them open.
I trust your officer,
I'm
so,
going to
yeah, that's
do
fine.
one, okay?
I'll stipulate to that.
Your Honor, we will call Sergeant Mike Lanier.
Do you hereby solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? This you do under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Sir, if you would state your full name for the record and spell your last, please.
Sure. My name's Mike Lanier. Last name spelled Lanier.
Proceed, Your Honor.
Yes.
Did you respond to the murder scene of Fern Hassel III on New Year's Eve 2018?
Yes, I did.
You responded in your duties as a St. Joe Township officer.
I did.
How long have you worked for St. Joe Township, sir?
18 years.
You're currently sergeant there?
Yes.
As a sergeant, what are your duties, sir?
I have normal patrol duties like all the other officers. I also have supervisor duties during the shifts and available for call-in supervisor duties if we have a small department, 10, 11 guy department. So occasionally I get called in to assist with stuff. I'm also in charge of training. I'm in charge of evidence. I assist in the defensive tactics program in our department.
Sir, what shift were you working on New Year's Eve 2018?
That'd be my normal midnight shift, which is 9 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Were you dispatched out for a priority call to 2086 Colfax Avenue?
I was.
That's St. Joseph Township, Marion County, Michigan.
Yes, it is.
Did you respond immediately?
I did. Actually, I was on a traffic stop at the Shell station, the corner of Lincoln and Niles Avenue. Upon hearing the priority tones, I cleared it immediately, proceeded to that address.
How long do you think you responded with, sir?
Approximately 4 to 5 minutes. It is a few miles, and also weather conditions weren't the best. It was a light rain, so I drove as fast as I felt I could safely drive.
Taking a look at People's Exhibit 4, you recognize that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Is that 2086 Colfax Avenue?
It is.
And you responded there. Can you describe to the jury the scene that you came upon when you responded?
Sure. When I arrived on scene, I arrived directly with 2 St. Joe City officers, Sergeant Teknologi and Officer Kevin Cyrus. There was a medic 1 ambulance that had backed up into the driveway. There were other officers arriving at the same time from numerous departments, as is common nature with a priority call. When I exited my patrol car, with the nature of the call I was sent on, I had grabbed a pair of gloves, in which I keep in my duty bags, protective latex gloves, putting those on as I was running towards the chaos near the ambulance.
Okay. Now, I put up People's Exhibit 6 on the screen, sir, and I know you indicated there was an ambulance there when you arrived on scene. Where would the ambulance have been in that picture, sir?
Ambulance would have been backed up approximately 15 feet ahead of that, well, behind the truck, but away from the truck in that driveway.
So when you got out, you put on your gloves, you ran up to the scene. Did you find Tyrone Hassel III, sir?
I did.
Okay, where was he, sir?
He was actually between where he was leaned up against the side of the driver's door of the vehicle, of the pickup truck, pictured there.
Looking at People's 7?
Pardon me?
Looking at People's Exhibit 7, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Between where he was leaned against the truck, there was the medic 1 personnel, also a medic gurney there. I looked over that. I decided to go around to the other side of the truck to go to the other side where I could be assistance in anything that the medics needed me to do at that time.
When you saw Kemia Hassel III, did you see injuries, sir?
I did.
Can you describe to the jury what you observed?
Sure. When I approached, I observed he'd had gunshot wounds to the head. There was blood and brain matter laying on the sidewalk or the driveway.
You know Kemia Hassel?
Before,
Are you
no.
familiar with her?
I am now, yes.
Is she here in the courtroom?
She is.
Can you please point her out, describe her clothing?
She's seated over there in a blue suit.
Here, I made the record reflect the way it's identified the defendant here today.
Yes, I know.
Was the defendant there at the time when you arrived on the scene?
She was.
What was, when you saw the victim, was the medic trying to get involved to try and get aid to the victim?
Right, medic was trying to do life-saving medic work on him, and also an attempt to get him loaded onto the gurney so they can go.
And I'm not going to ask any more about that. Medic Michael Schultz testified about that. So
Okay.
we're going to get to the part now after it was on the gurney, after the victim was on the gurney and taken to the ambulance. What are you doing at that time, then, sir?
Well, at that time and even before that time, I had asked Sergeant Katechi to tape off the scene, which is protect the crime scene, which he did. And then I assisted them loading, or watched them load Sergeant Hassel in the ambulance. Also at this time there was people approaching the scene. I'd ordered our officers to keep them back from the scene.
What's the reason for that?
Protection of evidence.
And you ordered Katechi, Sergeant Katechi to secure the scene. That was viewed on his body cam that was playing?
That's correct, yes.
Now, sir, were you wearing body cam that night?
I was.
And was it, how many hours were you at the scene, do you know?
From 11 till 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning.
Okay. And all that's on body cam?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything substantially different from your body cam on your initial response than you are seen through the testimony of medic Michael Schultz and Detective Sergeant Brent Katechi in terms of the initial getting on the scene?
No.
So the rest of your body cam, is that just picking up, processing the scene?
It is, well, yeah, it's picking up process of the scene, coordinating what needs to be done. A lot of us standing around waiting for things to get in place, to get done. Whatever I was doing, it was recording.
And I think all that's been turned over, correct?
It has.
And just, I'm gonna have you testify about the scene. I'm gonna show the pictures of it.
Sure.
Rather than playing 7 hours body cam. I think defense counsel's in agreement with that.
For the record, Judge, I have seen all 7 hours, and I don't think the jury needs to see it.
Thank you.
You're very thankful. So tell the jury about securing the scene. Where is the crime scene essentially? What are you securing?
Well, we're securing the address it's at, and then surrounding through the neighbor's yard, part of the neighbor's house, a large area basically so that no one who walks up or rides on scene can enter the tape without someone seeing it. So we basically taped off from, which would be to the left of what you can't see there, across the front of the house, down past it. I can't be exactly a tree or a pole or something around the back part of the neighbor's house, and then down is what I ultimately saw that Sergeant Katechi had taped off. He and his officers did that.
When you look at People's Exhibit 22, that shows the back end of the tape job going back behind the house, correct?
That's correct, yes.
When you're taking photographs, do you tend to take photographs from far in and then start doing close-ups?
Normally you do, yes. I believe that photograph was taken by Officer Ron Sarator of our police department.
That's fair and accurate, though.
It is, yes.
How do you mark evidence, sir?
Normally we mark evidence that needs to be collected with some type of placard. There's also,
used in this instance?
that's correct, yeah.
Now, I'm going to get into the placards and pictures and things like that. There is a placard missing, correct?
There is, yes.
What number is that?
Number 7,
Why is there no placard number 7?
because I lost that several years ago.
You lost it?
Yeah.
It's not lucky 7.
No.
When you first saw the scene, did you notice evidence on the ground near the truck to start with?
I did, yes.
The handle has been marked as People's Exhibit 8. Are you able to recognize that, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what is that, sir?
That is showing the side of the Dodge pickup truck, also depicting the evidence placards each placard is marking a piece of evidence.
Is that kind of taking a look at People's Exhibit 7, just kind of getting closer in?
Yes, true, this is a closer version of that.
Is that fair and accurate, sir?
It is.
Can I move to admit People's Exhibit number 8 into evidence?
No objection, Judge.
Number 8 is admitted.
Judge, if we want, Judge, if this group of photographs, obviously I've seen them, and presumably Sergeant Lanier can testify that the group of them are fair and accurate portrayals of what existed that night. So I have no objection if there just wants to be a group admission of all of them, and then we can go through it that way.
I'm fine with that, and I'll have Officer Lanier explain each one.
Numerical order from 8 on, or are they sort of very?
Numerical order, from 8 to 24.
So you are stipulating to the admission?
Of all of them at once.
24?
Yes, Judge.
All right, so 9.
22 has been admitted.
That's correct.
It has been. So 9 through 24 are now all admitted.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna have you take a look at People's Exhibit 9. That's a picture of the front of the truck, sir.
That's correct.
I'm just gonna give you a little about that.
Sure.
Then People's Exhibit 10, that's also a picture of the front of the truck, more towards the driver's side, showing the placards.
That's correct.
If I'm in anybody's way, just please let me know, and I'll try to step aside for anybody, okay? All right. And 11 is another close-up of placards, correct?
That's correct.
Now we're going to go through each placard. Did you find, tell the jury briefly what you found of evidentiary value on the ground.
Based on the ground, there was shell casings from a gun that was fired. With casings being ejected, it's most likely going to be a semi-automatic gun, which is when you pull the trigger, it ejects a shell casing. We located shell casings at that scene.
Taking a look at People's Exhibit number 11, that is a shell casing, sir, with placard number 1.
That is, yes, that's the shell case, first shell casing that was noted as number 1.
Okay. And the shell casing in this picture is towards the right side of the picture, right up there.
Yeah, it's close to the truck. There's a twig or something right directly by it as well.
Did you notice any type of fluid on the shell casings?
Yeah, there was what appeared to be blood, and they were laying in a pool of blood as well, some of them.
Taking a look at People's Exhibit 13, placard number 2, is that also a shell casing, sir?
That is correct.
Exhibit number 14, placard number 3, that's a shell casing, sir?
That's correct.
Exhibit number 15, placard number 4, shell casing?
That's correct.
And last one, sir, exhibit number 16. Placard number 5, that's also a shell casing, sir?
Yes, it is.
Now, did you also collect those shell casings, sir?
I did.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 101 through 105. And just talking collectively about those. What are People's Exhibits 101 through 105, sir?
Okay. Basically, these are labeled in order as evidence items number 1 through 5 by myself. In each package, there is a shell casing which was collected at the scene by me, which coincides with the pictures that you just saw where the shell casing was at with the placard. That's the evidence item that goes on the evidence bag. So in case of evidence item number 1, where the evidence item placard number 1 is at, that's where shell casing number 1 was collected from. And again, I collected those and sealed these.
And when you say you collected those and sealed those, did you place your name on them to make sure they weren't tampered with?
I did. Basically, what we do is we seal them with the evidence tape, also initial, on the back you'll see my initials, that they are initialed, that I sealed it. It's also signed. Also, the second tag on there is a biohazard tag, which if there's any type of body fluids that could be, that tells whoever opens this to wear gloves when they open it so they don't get contaminated with whatever's on there.
Your Honor, I move to admit People's Exhibit 101 through 105.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, 101 through 105. Admitted.
If I could have you take a look at People's 101. And Your Honor, just for the record, I spoke with defense counsel about this. There's pictures and photographs of the 5 shell casings. I don't bring all 5, I just intend on opening 101. I don't believe there's an objection from defense counsel.
There's
Couldn't
not.
find any bigger gloves?
I suck this out, yeah.
These will work. They were a fit, it's fine.
You should-
I'm good.
Okay.
Which one do you want me to open?
How about 101, sir?
Okay. Which is evidence item number 1?
Yes, sir.
Would you like me to remove it?
Yeah, if you could, sir. Now, is there additional labeling on that? Is that a spent shell casing that you recovered from the scene?
Yes, it is.
There's additional information on that, or additional labeling?
Yes, that white label on there was placed on there by the Michigan State Police Crime Lab. When it's sent to the crime lab, they give it their own number, and that means that they process this particular shell casing.
And on the breech face of that shell casing, sir, what kind of ammunition is that?
This is a 9mm, and to give you the brand, I'd have to put my glasses on.
Where would I find your glasses, sir?
Probably in my briefcase in your office.
Well, how about this, sir? Would you like to take a look, Mr. Kessler? Would it be accurate to say that it is an FC 9mm Luger that you recall?
Yes, that would be accurate.
FC 9mm Luger.
Yeah, actually, I can actually see that.
Right.
Well, this has just got
Oh,
all
these are
kinds
gonna
of
be good.
different
Shut the cameras off.
Cameras?
Yeah, I gotcha. FC 9mm.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor, for your assistance.
Yeah.
I'd like to make sure, Mr. Franklin, can we make sure we get a copy of that recording? Okay, you can put that back in, sir. Franklin, would you like to, Mr. Safety purposes? Sir, I'm gonna have you take a look at People's Exhibit number 8. I'm sorry, People's Exhibit number 18, placard number 8. Can you explain that to the jury, sir?
That was the victim's hat laying right directly underneath the side step of his pickup truck.
And People's Exhibit number 19, sir, placard number 9.
That was a set of keys to the Dodge pickup truck, also laying next to it.
If I can have you take a look at People's Exhibit number 20, sir. What's that, sir?
That was actually a photograph of the garage, taken from the front of the garage. It's hard to see there, but there are a couple placards, one on the garage door and one on the fence to the left, which the one on the garage door and also the one on the fence indicate what we believe is a bullet hole.
All right, well, how about then we zoom in and take a look at People's Exhibit 22, sir. Placard number 12. It's kind of hard to see with the glare. Okay, People's 21. People's number 21, placard number 12. Now, you indicated what's significant about that photo, sir?
Well, that's the garage door in front of the pickup truck in the driveway, and just to the left of the placard, which is taped on there, you can see what appears to be a bullet hole.
Were you able to recover any bullets from that?
Not from that particular scene, no.
And then People's Exhibit 22. I'm sorry. Actually, I want to take you back, sir. Let's see those photos. Also recovered from the scene, placard number 6. 17. People's Exhibit 17, sir. It's kind of, might be a little bit difficult, but can you explain to the jury what placard number 6 is for, sir?
That's that basically in the pool of what is blood, there is a what we refer to as a spent round from the 9mm. It's a partial bullet, basically.
That area right there.
That's correct.
And did you also collect that into evidence?
I did.
And was that sent to the lab also, sir, for testing?
It was.
And People's Exhibit 23, sir, if I can take a look at that. Did you need something, sir?
Oh, good, thank you.
What is that, sir?
That would be the driver's side of the victim's truck, where he was, if you look on the side, you'll see what appears to be smears on the side of the truck to the left of the blood, and also over there where indicate that basically someone had been against the side of that truck and slid down it. And where we ultimately, why I originally saw him, he was slumped in the middle of that pool to the left by the step bed there. He was basically slumping with his head against the side of the pickup truck.
And sir, at some point did you go into the house at 2086 Colfax Avenue?
I did.
Did you go into the living room?
Oh, yes, I did.
I'll show you this from Marcus People's Exhibit, even as 24. Is that the living room of 2086, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What's significant in terms of that picture, sir?
There's food, plates of food on the couch.
Is that the bulk of the photos that depicted the evidence from that scene that night that was collected?
Yes.
Now also, when you're coordinating the scene, Deputy Dyer did a dog track you're aware of?
That's correct.
And then also, after the victim was taken to the hospital, you received property of the victim, sir?
I did.
My hand has been marked as People's Exhibit 113. Recognize what's in that bag, sir?
Yes, there was a brown wallet with a red stripe on it.
Okay, and whose wallet was that, sir?
That was Sergeant Hassel's wallet.
And that was taken into custody and that's been sealed?
That was, yes.
May I move to admit People's Exhibit 113 in evidence?
Without objection.
113 is admitted.
My name must be marked as People's Exhibit 114, sir. They would recognize that, sir?
I do.
It's a sealed evidence envelope, sir?
It is.
And what's in that envelope, sir?
There is $128 of U.S. currency.
And where was that, where is that seized from?
That was seized from Sergeant Hassel's left front pants pocket.
Move to admit, is that 114, sir?
Yes.
114.
No objection.
114 is admitted.
Thank you, sir. Now, were you representing St. Joe Township Police Department, one of the ones in charge of this investigation?
Yes.
Was information released about this investigation? Like press releases or anything like those?
There was a brief press release issued by our now chief, Randy Lane.
At that time, was a lot of information published about the case or very limited?
No, we purposely do not give a lot of information. If it's an ongoing investigation, we just simply can't. We can't let that out there.
Are any of the specific facts released about a case?
No, I don't have the, actually I probably have a copy of the press release, but I think it was basically something that There was a shooting death of a subject on, and basically probably the address.
But
Pretty basic
no
information.
details about how or any further details of the case?
No, we don't do that.
Now, as part of the investigation also, sir, you're in charge of trying to track down leads and follow up on all different kinds of leads that come in, correct?
That's correct.
Is it uncommon for numerous leads to come in that you're tracking down?
It's not uncommon, no.
And are you working with multiple agencies at this point?
Yeah, we actually, from the night of the incident, requested the help of the Barron County Sheriff's Department Detective Bureau. We also had assistance from detectives from local areas who formed basically what's called a homicide task force. There's officers from Benton Township Police Department, St. Joe City Police Department, there's Barron County Sheriff's Department. There was numerous officers involved.
Michigan State Police involved?
Michigan State Police as well.
I think you said St. Joe City already?
St. Joe City, yes.
Did you follow up with Walter Nost, or, let me answer this, sir. My name was marked as People's 136. Are you able to recognize that, sir?
Yes.
Okay, that's exhibit previously shown to Mr. Nost. Do you know what that is?
Yes, that is the suspect, Jeremy Cuellar's vehicle. It's actually inside of the Barron County, it's called the Pier Building. That's where large pieces of vehicles mainly are stored, sealed off as evidence. Also, inside this building is, climate control. Also, this is depicted with the headlights on the vehicle, but the lights off in the building.
And that was the photo, you took that photo?
I did not.
Okay, were you there when that was
I
taken?
was, yes. Lieutenant Zazikowski from the Barron County Sheriff's Department took this.
And that's fair and accurate of how it looked with the lights off and the lights in the building off, lights on the car on.
That's correct, yes.
I move to admit People's 136.
No objection.
136 is admitted.
And this is the photo that Walter Nost spoke about earlier in terms of that bottom row of LED lights, sir?
That's correct.
And that's Jeremy Cuellar's car.
That is correct.
So you have multiple agencies assisting you, following up on leads. Was the defendant interviewed during this time also to see if she had any information about the homicide?
I believe she was interviewed more than once. Original one, I believe, took place right after the incident.
At any time during the initial interviews was the name Jeremy Cuellar ever mentioned?
No.
At some point, did you receive contact from an Army individual in Georgia?
I did.
Who was that, sir?
That was Special Agent Joseph Thomas, or Thompson, I should say, Thompson.
And did he talk about the case and leads in the case?
He did.
Okay. And what did he tell you, just generally?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that as hearsay.
Your Honor, I'm not offering for the truth of the matter asserted. I asked for just a brief synopsis so as to indicate why Sergeant Lanier did what he did next.
Then I think
simply effect on the listener.
I think perhaps a better question would be, after your conversation with this person in the Army, what did you do?
It can be done without the hearsay, and so I'm going to sustain the objection.
Thank you.
You spoke with Thompson from the Army.
I did.
Okay. Based on what he told you, what did you do, sir?
Based on my initial conversation with him, I had actually contacted my chief, who also contacted the Barron County Sheriff's Department, Captain Greg Sanders, Lieutenant Bigger. Based on the information we received, we needed to do some immediate investigation of the information that we received.
And did that include bringing in the defendant for another interview?
It did, yes.
Did you interview, and when was this, sir?
This was January 11th.
So from December 31st through January 11th, you had not heard any information from the defendant about anybody named Jeremy Cuellar?
No.
When you talked with her on January 11th, where did you speak with her, sir?
Was at the Bear County Sheriff's Department Detective Bureau.
And who was with you?
In the actual office was Chief Randy Lang, myself, Detective Biggert, Captain Sanders, and Detective Corey Peak. During the interview, was in an interview room with Detective Biggert and myself.
And when you met with her, did you read her Miranda rights?
Lieutenant Biggert did, yes.
Okay. And did she seem to understand those rights?
Yes.
Did you have any questions about those rights?
No.
And do you remember what time this was roughly?
I believe her rights were retro at 20, 48 hours.
24, so 8:48 in the evening?
Yeah, close. Yeah, 8:48 in the evening.
Did you ask her, based on the information received, about Jeremy Cuellar?
We did, yes.
What did she tell you about Jeremy Cuellar?
Basically that she and he were in the same military unit. They worked together in the same unit. Was an acquaintance of his.
An acquaintance?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yes.
Did she say there was anything further to the relationship besides just being an acquaintance and a coworker?
No.
Did you ask her more than once about that?
We did, yes.
What was her response to you when asking her about, did she have any particular responses to that when asking her about Cuellar and her relationship with him?
Yeah, when we had questioned her what her relationship was with Jeremy Cuellar based on our information we received from Joseph Thompson, she stated, what's up with that?
What's up with that relationship?
What's up with that is basically what she said.
Did you indicate that you had received information from Georgia that implicated her in the murder of her husband?
Yes, we did.
Did you indicate to her that people on the base were talking about the incident involving her and Cuellar and her husband?
Yeah, we did.
And what was her response to that?
Basically, she wanted to know what they were saying, what the people on the base were saying about it.
Did she continue to ask, what are they saying?
She asked a few times, yeah.
At any point, did she go beyond her initial statement that there was no relationship between her and Mr. Cuellar?
Not during our initial interview there at the Sheriff's Department, no.
Did you talk about whether or not she had contact with Mr. Cuellar recently?
Yes, we did.
What did she tell you?
She stated that she had communicated with Cuellar while they were on block leave.
Okay. Did she indicate how she communicated with him at all?
I believe it was Snapchat.
Did you talk about her relationship with her husband?
We did.
Did she indicate whether or not she was having any problems with her husband in terms of infidelity with him at all?
No.
Did you ask her if Sergeant Hassel ever cheated on her through the marriage?
I did ask her that
And
question.
what was her response?
She said no, she didn't believe so.
Did she continue to deny any involvement with any type of plan for murder of her husband?
Yes, she did.
About roughly how long were you asking these questions?
That interview lasted approximately 50 minutes.
50 minutes. Was it straight 50 minutes, or were there breaks? Or?
Well, there was someone in the room with her, I would say, the whole time, either myself or Detective Biggert. Also, Detective Corey Peak had come in the room and actually asked for her cell phone so he can do investigative purposes with her phone, which she gave him.
At some point during the interview, at the close of the interview, I said a moment.
Yeah, right, yeah, I would presume, yeah.
At some point in the interview, I think it was Lieutenant Biggert, did he offer the defendant the opportunity to speak with another person from the Michigan State Police?
Yes, he did.
And who was that, sir?
That would have been First Lieutenant Andrew, I believe it's pronounced Languski. Languski.
If I told you it was pronounced Lunguski, would you argue with that, or?
Probably not.
Okay. You gave her the opportunity to speak with Detective Andrew Lunguski?
We did.
Okay. Did she want that opportunity to speak with him?
Yes, she did.
Did she ask to speak with him?
Yes, she did.
At that point, did you transport her to speak with Detective Lunguski?
Myself and Officer Jeremy Peppers from our department did transport her. Yes.
Where was that?
That was at the State Police Headquarters in Lansing.
Okay. Were there any, you drove her up, I'm assuming?
We drove, yes.
Any issues on the ride or anything like that?
No, we left the Sheriff's Department with Officer Peppers, myself, and Kemia Hassel. We did have to stop immediately in Ben Harbor for gas. Also, I offered if she needed anything to drink or anything. Myself, I got a Pepsi and a bag of Fritos.
For you?
Yes.
Did she ask for anything?
No, she didn't.
Did she seem comfortable?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. She didn't seem in distress at all?
No.
So you transfer up to Lansing to speak with Detective Lunguski. At her willing to do it, correct?
Correct.
At her request.
Correct.
Did you observe this interview?
I did.
How did you observe it, sir?
I was actually in a separate room from the interview itself, watching it on basically a TV screen.
And did Detective Lunguski read her rights again to her?
He did.
Okay. Did she seem to understand her rights at that time?
Yes, she did.
And I'm not going to ask you in depth about the interview with Detective Lunguski because he'll come in here and testify more fully about the interview. I'm just a brief synopsis to know where we're going
Sure.
after this. Can you just tell the jury basically what she indicated to Detective Lunguski?
Sure. Basically, during the interview, she had indicated that she, in fact, knew Jeremy Cuellar better than she indicated originally, that she'd actually had was an ongoing relationship with him, which started in Korea when she was deployed to Korea along with Jeremy Cuellar and their units, including Sergeant Hassel's unit was also deployed, although it was a different unit working different jobs. They weren't in the same, they were in Korea together, but not in the exact same location. But basically, the military units were deployed to Korea for a period of time.
Now initially, before she said that to Detective Lunguski, did she deny again to Detective Lunguski everything?
She did, yes.
All right. Did he confront her that he did not believe she was telling the truth?
He did.
Is that when she started to indicate, yes, we got a relationship?
Yes.
Did she talk, just briefly, sir, again, we're not going to get too much into it, into the relationship with her husband and her happiness with that?
She did, stated that she was unhappy with her relationship with her husband. And basically, Jeremy Cuellar was the guy that was there for her.
So did she indicate briefly on any plans that she and Jeremy Cuellar made?
Yeah, she stated that the actual plan to have Sergeant Hassel killed started in Korea
And when was it to be carried out?
when they were home on block leave, which is like military's Christmas vacation, basically.
And did she say any reasons for this plan?
Yeah, basically that her unhappiness with her husband, and she also indicated that there was a money aspect as well.
A money aspect as well, sir?
Yes, sir.
After the interview was over, again, we'll have Detective Lunguski to testify fully about it. Did you guys take Kemia Hassel back to Garrison County at that point?
We did, yes.
And did your investigation continue, sir?
It did.
Now, you indicated money was one of the reasons for the murder, correct?
That's correct.
As part of the investigation, were records obtained from Kemia Hassel's defendant's Navy Federal Credit Union account?
They were.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
My hand has been marked as People's Exhibit 116, sir. Are you able to recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What is that, sir?
This is bank records from United Federal Credit Union for Kemia Hassel.
And when she indicated money was part of the reason for the murder, is that referring, she referred to any specific source of money, sir?
Yes. To my understanding, if an active military personnel passes during their time during the time of their enlistment, there is it's basically a standard life insurance policy of a particular amount that gets issued.
And those records right there, that's the certified copy, sir?
I believe so, yes. Got a seal on it.
You know, our people move to admit people's 116 in evidence.
With a stipulation that they are accompanied by a certified record, that they are the records they purport to be, yes, Judge.
Okay, that's 116.
116, yes.
116 is admitted.
Thank you. So looking into 116, did the defendant receive a large sum of money from the United States government in those records, sir? You need glasses?
No,
Okay.
I got these.
I didn't mean that to fun.
Yes, it does.
What was the deposit for, sir?
$100,000.
And when was that deposit made?
Looks like. Let's see the date of that.
And for sure?
Yes.
Look real quick, sir.
Sure.
Looking at the activity detail, the transactional detail for the transfer.
Looks like those funds were transferred on January 7th.
That's from, indicates from Fort Knox.
Yes. Yes.
That was for $100,000, correct?
That's correct.
I have nothing further to this witness. You know, at this time I publish this to the jury. I don't have, they can't go up on the screen, I have to hand it to them, it's physical.
That's fine.
Judge, I'm
Wanna
sorry.
wait?
I'll wait, yeah.
I'm sorry, I could probably speed it up a little bit, I just. Just to point it out real quick, where it might be a little easier. Just for the record, for the juror's clarification, we're looking at page 3 of 5 of the record. I can fold it back, but feel free to look at anything. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sergeant, good morning.
Morning.
Sergeant, forgive the obvious question, but would it be fair to say that all of the evidence recovered at the scene, none of it in any way pointed to Kemia Hassel being involved in the homicide of her husband, is that correct?
I'd say initially, yes, you'd be correct.
And your interaction with her at the scene was fairly minimal, it sounds like, is that fair?
Yes, it is.
It was Officer Peppers who interviewed Ms. Hassel, is that right?
Officer Peppers, and then I believe later on Detective Bigger did as well at the hospital. But at the scene, no, I did not. It was very brief.
And nothing in your brief interaction with her, it sounds like, gave you any suspicion that she was involved, is that correct?
That's correct.
The investigation, at least from the 31st until the 11th, turned up a number of leads, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And one of the things that I believe you guys investigated, and let me take a step back, you indicated that you gave a press release, a very short press release, is that right?
That's correct.
Not too many details, not too many specifics, is that right?
That's right.
But It's true, though, that almost immediately after this happened, there were social media posts about the shooting, is that correct?
That's correct.
And those are some of the leads you investigated, is that correct?
We investigate everything that came in our direction, yes.
Of course. And fair to say that even though you give a small press release, still people somehow start talking and have information, some of it accurate, some of it not accurate, is that fair?
The streets will talk faster than we do, yes.
The life insurance policy, you indicated, and just so we understand, that is for everybody, your understanding, that's in the Army, is that correct?
That's my understanding. If there's a death, that's a standard issued policy.
This wasn't a special policy that Kemia took out on her husband or anything like that? Is that
No,
correct?
I believe it's for every military personnel.
And the deposit that was made into her account, obviously that's something the Army and the life insurance company did, is that correct?
That's correct,
All right.
yes.
That's something that happens, as far as you understand, that's something that happens automatically, is that right?
Yeah, in speaking to one of the Army CID officers, that initial payment is made fairly quickly for obvious reasons of, expenses and whatever, so.
And again, if you can't answer us, that's fine. The interview with Officer Peppers, and I think you said it's a detective or Sergeant Biggers, during that time, Ms. Hassel, I don't know if she was asked, but she denied any involvement in this, is that correct?
To my understanding, yes.
And the interview that you had with Ms. Hassel, that was on the 11th, is that right, the longer one?
That is correct, yes.
And just so I understand, and maybe I misheard you, when you started the interview, would it be fair to say her Miranda rights were read at 20:08? Does that sound accurate?
If that's the time in the report, that would be accurate.
Okay. And, Your Honor, could I just approach
Yes.
the jury seat? Sergeant, you have obviously filled out several reports, is that correct?
That's correct,
All right.
yes.
And in this case, would it refresh your recollection to look at your report as to when Ms. Hassel's rights were read?
Yeah, it's 20:08 and 41 seconds.
So that's 8:08 p.m., correct?
That's correct, yes.
And that interview lasted about an hour, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And during that time, she denied any involvement in her husband's shooting, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
She then was taken to Lansing. Now, that's something that you offered her, is that right?
Detective Bigger asked if she'd be willing to submit to another interview. Yes.
And the reason I ask is it wasn't her idea to go speak with someone else. That was something you guys put in front of her, is that correct?
We asked her, yes.
And she complied, correct?
She did.
And how long approximately does it take you guys to get from the Berrien County site where she's interviewed to Lansing?
2 hours, 15 minutes, possibly.
And if you guys leave at about 9, she gets there somewhere in the neighborhood of 11:15 p.m., is that correct? Give or take?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what time we left. It was later than 9 o'clock, but I can't tell you exactly. Maybe half hour, 45 minutes later, because we'd actually waited for Officer Peppers to arrive to go with me. So.
And you stopped and got gas and the free goes?
A few minutes, yeah.
So maybe she gets there, or maybe you all, and you go with her, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So you get there maybe a little closer to midnight, is that right?
That'd be fair, yes.
All right. And she goes in the room with, is it Detective?
Detective
Longusky. You're not in the room, you said, correct?
That's correct.
And the total time that she's in there with Detective Longusky it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2.5 hours, isn't that right?
That would be fair, yes. I can't tell you for sure, but yeah.
Approximately.
Yes.
And during that interview, she spends about the first 90 minutes denying that she has any involvement as well, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's only after Detective Longusky, kind of goes to work on her, talking about, you've seen the video, is that right?
I have, yes.
All right. And when I discussed in my opening the things where Detective Longusky saying, I'm going to co-sign your loan, do you remember him saying that?
I do remember that, yes.
And do you remember him invoking the name Chunk numerous times?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember him saying, you got to get out in front of this? Do you remember him saying that repeatedly?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember him saying, you've got a future with your son? Do you remember him saying that?
Yes, I do.
And Sergeant, Jeremy Cuellar was in custody when this interview took place, is that correct or no?
Yes, he was.
And There is no statement that he gave that you're aware of, correct?
That's correct.
When he was taken into custody, he immediately asked for a lawyer, isn't that right?
Well, he was taken into custody after there was some timing involved in when he was taken into custody. Basically, we felt we needed to have Kemia Hassel at the Sheriff's Department interviewing her before we took Cuellar in custody in Georgia.
Thank you for making that distinction. So when Ms. Hassel, when Kemia is being asked these questions, Jeremy Cuellar is in fact not in custody, is that right?
That's correct. He was basically the military, along with the Liberty County Sheriff's Department, were waiting for me to say, go. And
So an eye was being kept on him? Fair.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. But he hadn't been taken into custody, correct?
That's correct.
He hadn't given any statements to law enforcement, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, he never ended up giving statements to law enforcement?
I don't believe he did, no.
Thank you. And Sergeant, as I was saying, it's only after she's been with you guys for an hour, she's been in the car with you for, you said about 2 hours. She gets to the Lansing State Police Department somewhere around midnight. She's questioned for another hour and a half. She's denied all these things. And then Detective Longuski talks about all the things that we talked about. That's when Kemia Hassel starts making statements that she was somehow involved in this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just one other thing, Sergeant. When you were initially speaking with Kemia Hassel earlier that night, you asked if she was involved in a romantic relationship with Jeremy Cuellar. She denied that, correct?
That's correct.
But when you asked her if she'd been in contact with him, she didn't deny that, did she?
No.
In fact, she admitted to you that she'd been in contact with him earlier that day, is that right?
That's correct.
So she never denied knowing him, is that fair?
No, she never did.
And she certainly didn't have to admit that she'd spoken with him earlier that day, correct?
Correct.
Sorry, just for a moment.
I have nothing else, Judge, thank you.
Any other questions?
Sergeant Lanier, defense counsel asked you, was there anything at the crime scene that indicated to you that his client, the defendant, was involved at the scene? Your answer to him was initially yes. I'm sorry, there was nothing to indicate to you at the scene that she was involved. You said initially yes.
At the scene, yes.
Okay. Why did you say the word initially yes?
Because there was things developed later on after the original day, which led us to believe. To go the investigation and the drought we did was based on information we received at a later date. So
Okay.
initially, no, she was not.
Now, there was a number of leads, things come on social media, things like that, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you followed up on every single lead possible that you could do.
Everyone that we knew of, yes.
Okay. And even on those social media posts, those didn't have specific details of the crime that you know, that you're aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Did she appear to know about the insurance policy when she was speaking with Longuski?
Yes.
At any time when she was talking with Longuski, did she appear intimidated at all?
No.
Did she appear comfortable?
It looked like it.
Did it look like she appeared comfortable? Was she told that she could leave at any time?
She was free to go, yes.
Was she told that this was completely voluntary?
Yes.
Now, you did not have any statements, the defense counsel asked you, you didn't have any statements from Jeremy Cuellar to the police when she was interviewed by Detective Longuski, correct?
Correct.
But did you have statements from Jeremy Cuellar?
Yes.
Where were those statements from?
Those statements were obtained through the investigation from Fort Stewart, CID, from the witnesses they were speaking to about what had happened and who did it.
And were those other soldiers?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So you did have statements from Cuellar to other soldiers in Georgia when the defendant was being interviewed by Longuski?
Yes, we did.
During the interview, did she give details about this crime that were not in those statements, or further details about the crime, sir?
She gave, details about the crime that basically confirmed what we read in the statements.
Okay, but did it go beyond the statements also?
Yes.
Nothing further?
Attorney Hassel?
Just one moment, please, Judge. I have nothing, Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
People call Zachary Roberts.
Podium, raise your right hand for the judge, please.
Do you hereby solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? This you do under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Sir, if you would, state your full name for the record, spell your last, please.
Zachary William Roberts, Roberts.
Do you need the microphone, sir, or are you comfortable speaking loudly?
I'm comfortable.
Great. Sir, are you in the United States Army?
Yes, sir.
In what capacity do you serve?
I'm a special agent with the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command.
And where are you stationed?
Currently, I'm stationed at Fort Stewart, supporting the 3rd Infantry Division.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about Fort Stewart?
Yes, Fort Stewart is the largest military installation on the eastern seaboard. We reside in 5 different counties. There's about 12,000 people that live on the installation at any given point, and it is a armored infantry division that resides down there.
It is all one continuous base, though.
Correct, yes. It's all one base. It's just very large, so we cover a number of counties. The Garrison, or where most people live and reside, is in Liberty County.
Sir, where'd you go to school?
I went to school at Rochester Institute of Technology.
Can you tell the jury about your education, your degrees?
Yes, I have a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice and a Master's of Science in Homeland Security.
How long have you been with CID, is it?
Yes, approximately 5 years now.
You testified that you were a special agent with CID.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your day-to-day duties in that capacity?
Yes, my primary mission is to investigate felony-level investigations against persons, property, and anything that has a government or an army interest.
That occurs on the base or elsewhere?
Elsewhere. If it's specifically for me, if it's a soldier that's assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division, they can commit a crime anywhere, and I can still take the case.
What portion of Fort Stewart is under your jurisdiction then?
Our response area is most of southern Georgia. However, if someone with the 3rd Infantry Division was to go anywhere in the world and they commit a crime that's within our purview, we can still initiate a case on it.
Sir, were you working on January 11th of 2019?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that day?
Yes, sir.
How did it begin?
It began with the special agent in charge. It's a Special Agent Thompson. He provided me guidance to meet with a Captain Staton, who's the chaplain with the 141st Field Artillery, Field Artillery Unit, to meet with them about 2 soldiers who wanted to come forward and discuss a murder or an attempted murder.
Was the name of one of those soldiers Jaquan Hamilton?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about the circumstances of going to meet him.
Well, we went to his office, met with him briefly.
When you say his office, you mean?
Captain Staton.
Yes, sir.
The chaplain. Met with him very briefly, and I sat down with Specialist Hamilton.
What was the purpose of meeting there?
It was where they were comfortable, and we did have a private place to discuss, so we just kept it at that location.
Were you concerned about making sure to have a private place to speak?
Yes.
Why is that?
Just for our own privacy reasons. We didn't want him to feel discomfort, and we also didn't know what information he had, so we wanted to ensure that it was in a secure location.
Did you have any reason to think that Mr. Hamilton was uncomfortable, or?
He was comfortable where we were discussing the matter. He was discomforted with the information that he was providing to us, but he was comfortable discussing it with us.
And wanted to make sure that you were speaking in a private place?
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you able to describe Specialist Hamilton's appearance and demeanor?
Yes, he appeared distraught. He was comfortable with talking to us, however, he believed that.
Your Honor, I'll object to what Specialist Hamilton believed.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Sir, after taking the statement of Specialist Hamilton, whose job was it to make decisions about what to do next?
Ultimately, for investigations, it's the special agent in charge who is responsible for activity. However, lead case agents are the ones who guide the activity. That happens in any case.
And who was the lead case agent?
Myself.
Did you work closely with the special agent in command or in charge? What is
Special
that
agent in charge.
Special agent in charge, Thompson.
Yes, sir.
You worked closely with him about where to go from here.
Correct.
Are you able to tell the jury about that action that you took?
Yes, so from the interviews that we conducted that evening, I met with the SAC, discussed it with him. He coordinated with all law enforcement in this area up here. Myself and my team, we went out and our immediate objective was to lay eyes on Specialist Cuellar.
And were you able to make eye contact with him?
Yes, sir.
How shortly thereafter of meeting with Hamilton, Specialist Hamilton, did you make visual of Specialist Cuellar?
It was approximately 2 hours.
Just 1 second, Your Honor. What was done from there, sir?
From there, I coordinated with the Liberty County Sheriff's Office, and I requested their assistance with the apprehension of Specialist Cuellar using their special response team. Once we obtained the warrants from this area, the Liberty County did apprehend Specialist Cuellar without incident, and they held him in the local jail down there. From there, the next day, my office conducted a number of interviews of service members, units at the Fort Stewart area. And then I also subsequently was present for when Liberty County conducted a search warrant of the residence of Specialist Cuellar, where we found a temporary weapons registration card laying in his bedroom that had description of the suspected weapon used to kill Sergeant Hassel.
Following the discovery of that document, did you also make arrangements to coordinate an interview with the one Tadarius Golston?
Yes, sir.
What was involved in that?
I actually made contact with him direct. His name was on the temporary weapons registration card. I discussed the matter with him, brought him in for an interview, and he explained to me.
Judge, objection to hearsay.
Withdraw the question from there.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Sir, can you tell the jury about service group life insurance?
Yes, the service group life insurance, also known as SGLI, is term life insurance for any service member. If you're on active duty, you're automatically enrolled into the $400,000 program. That if you decease while on active duty, it gets provided to any beneficiary. Additionally, on top of the SGLI, the DoD has a benefits program for if you decease while on active duty, you immediately receive $100,000. So there's approximately $500,000 that's involved with Department of Defense life insurance policies.
It's your understanding that you use the word immediately to describe what amount?
$100,000.
Sir, you testified about Special Agent in Command being in communication with St. Joseph Township Law Enforcement. As part of that, was CID relaying the information that was learned in your investigation to local law enforcement here in Michigan?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness with People's 109.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Sir, handing you 109, do you recognize it?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
This is a Department of the Army Form 31, which is a request and authority for leave.
Had you seen that before?
Yes, sir.
Did you provide my office with that copy?
Correct, sir.
Your Honor, I move to it. Can you tell me whose name is on that?
It is Cuellar Jeremy J.
Move to admit 109.
No objection.
109 is admitted.
Sir, with the name Jeremy Cuellar, is there also an address there?
Yes, sir.
Is that address required as part of a request and authority for leave slip that's issued with the Army?
Yes, sir.
And what's the purpose of that address?
It is so the chain of command is tracking where their soldiers are at all times.
So you have to provide an address?
Correct.
And what is the address that Jeremy Cuellar provided?
It is 3114 West Moffitt, Chicago, Illinois, 60647.
And is there also a phone number provided?
Correct. It is 773-639-8132.
And I'll ask you, sir, to also read the dates that are provided for that leave permission.
The from leave is 10 December 2018 to 4 January 2019.
December 10th to
Correct.
January 4th.
Yes, sir.
Madam First Witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
No more questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Hassel, any questions?
Just one moment, please, Judge. Okay, all right. Is it Specialist? Special agent?
Special agent.
Special. Sir, the chaplain down in Georgia, he came and contacted you or special agent in charge, Thompson?
So the special agent in charge, Thompson, approached myself. I was the on-duty agent for that day. The chaplain, he went with permission from Hamilton. He went to the special agent in charge just because he didn't know the appropriate avenue of approach, so he went to him direct.
Sure. Did you have, obviously you had conversation with Specialist Hamilton that day, is that right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Did that take place in the chapel, or that was in your office?
No. That was at the chaplain's office. He provided us his office where it was private.
And is it fair to say that Specialist Hamilton was actually, when he made this contact with the chaplain, he was hiding in the chapel, correct? Is that your understanding?
No, sir. He was not hiding in a chapel, or it was in his office.
Let me step back. When Specialist Hamilton made initial contact, isn't it true that he was afraid of Jeremy Cuellar?
He was afraid of the situation as a whole, I would say, sir.
And isn't it true that he told the chaplain he was hiding from Jeremy Cuellar?
Yes, sir, in a way.
I have nothing else, Judge, thank you.
No more questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down. May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
All right. You are excused.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to take a short recess.
That's what I was gonna say.
Give you a chance to stretch and take a peek in the jury room. We're going to take about 15 minutes or so. It's in the back there, the restrooms back there. Again, I remind you, you can talk about anything you want except for this case, okay?